But here's my question. I want to give an objection to the design argument for the existence of God.
All right.
Um, Most arguments that I've heard, they go something like this. Design arguments, they first assert that it's highly improbable that such and such parameters would be fine tuned for our existence,
Uh-huh.
and that such fine tuning suggests a designer. Thus, there's a designer, or something like that. And then I look at that, and then I try to use analogous reasoning, and then it seems to me that we can say that almost anything is designed. For example, you can have I could throw a bottle of ketchup on the floor and it could splatter and make a particular stain
Right.
on the floor.
Right.
And we might say that that stain is highly improbable because it could only exist if
Sure.
all these factors were in play. The bottle had to be thrown at such and such angle.
Correct.
It had to have a certain viscosity. All this, and we could make a huge amount of causes that need to be in place in order for that stain to exist.
Sure.
And so I guess I don't know what the inference is. Maybe that it's designed, or it's special, it's privileged, it's one of a kind, or I don't know how to label it.
Sure. Well, it could be one of a kind. That doesn't mean it's designed. And Rick, what you are identifying is the exact same objection that I had to how I understood the design argument until I got a more accurate understanding about it. Because the design argument is not simply the claim that certain things are highly improbable, but that they are. But it goes beyond that. If you go to where is Mount Rushmore? Is that in South Dakota or North Dakota?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. You didn't even know. Where is Dakota? What state's that in? Okay, so in one of the Dakotas, you got Mount Rushmore. If you look at all of the rock formations there in that area, all of them are equally complex and equally improbable if what you mean is what is the probability of that precise formation being formed rather than any other formation. I'm just talking now about the mountains in general. And so each that happened, as far as we could tell, entirely by naturalistic causes, erosion and all of that, are equally complex and equally improbable. Yet they all seem to happen by natural causes and not by any intelligent design. Okay, I'm with you as far as we've gone, and that's the point that you're just making. But Mount Rushmore has something that the rest of it doesn't have. One could argue that all of the features on those rock on the rock faces of Mount Rushmore are equally improbable as any of the other crags nearby. The difference is that this highly improbable arrangement, thank you, on Mount Rushmore matches another pattern. And this is the difference this is the second element to the design argument. It is not just high improbability. It is also what's called specified complexity. That you have something that is complex that is specified to something else. So Mount Rushmore is the perfect example because we have four different very clear visages of particular presidents of the United States. Because this improbable combination there on the face of that mountain matches some other thing so precisely, this is an evidence that it's designed. That's the whole point of emphasizing specified complexity. You could look, for example, at the sand on a beach, and the water's washing up, and all of these configurations that you see on the beach with the water washing up are developed by naturalistic forces. Okay, you can see the water washing, and this, and here you get this effect, and all of the effects where every grain of sand sits. Any particular characterization of that is going to be not only highly complex but highly improbable. Yet there it is, complex and improbable. It took place. But if you have somebody walk through that wet sand with shoes on, or barefoot for that matter, it leaves an imprint that is specified to something known. And this is why when we see footsteps in the sand, we don't think, wow, that is amazing that natural causes would produce something like that. No, we see the specification of it, and we infer from it the agent who had walked there with shoes that were made by somebody, and we don't even think twice about it. It's so natural for us to do it. And so those people who are part of the intelligent design movement point out that we know how to infer design from certain effects. We do it all the time. And William Dembski has actually characterized in very clear terms what that process looks like. That's where the term specified complexity comes from. And so since we already know how to do this and we're doing it all the time, maybe we can harness that capability with regards to the origins question. And sure enough, we encounter all kinds of things that satisfy the same requirements for design that we have with footprints and Mount Rushmore and a whole host of other things that we know to be designed because of the nature of the thing we're engaged with. And that's the case here. It isn't just an appeal to a remarkable result that's highly improbable, because as you rightly identified, virtually any result is going to catch up on the floor. This is going to be highly improbable, but it happens. That's not the point. It's that it also conforms to it conforms to something else that we know that was specified. Look at it. If you dropped your ketchup on the floor and the ketchup, the splatters spelled perfectly a complex sentence, you would not probably be inclined to think that that's just a remarkable coincidence. You would probably be inclined to think that something is going on here that entails intelligence. You might not automatically go to the supernatural, but it depends on the nature of if it was ketchup splattered on the wall that formed a sentence, especially if the sentence said, "Quit throwing ketchup on me," signed wall. Right? You would infer something else from that circumstance rather than just accident, and that's what's going on with intelligent design arguments. So I would say the problem is you just got half of the equation, not the other.
Okay, so I'm with you on the Mount Rushmore. Like when you see a face, I think it matches up, like you said, to I guess our faces, our human faces. So we say, that match must be proof of design. But now, how does that apply to the physical world? Like let's take the configuration of like the laws of gravity and the laws of strong and weak nuclear forces.
Yeah.
What does that match up to, in which then supposedly leads us to infer design? I don't see the match.
Well, the match is that it is it's not just a incredibly complex state of affairs that leads to the existence of complex life on Earth. It is the particular, in this particular case, the strong and weak nuclear force and all the other constants of physics. And I don't know them all because that's not my field, but as well as not just the constants of physics, but all kinds of other things that have to do with gross astronomy, that is the universe taken as a whole, and also localized astronomy like our solar system. There are all of these, what used to be called amazing coincidences. Amazing coincidences that all need to be in place before complex life on Earth is even possible. But it turns out we are in a position to view the universe in which all of these incredible things took place that are remarkably fine-tuned. That is, if you're just off, like not a decimal point, but a millionth of a decimal point on some of these things, then everything would be radically different. And there's so many of them that the concept of the anthropic principle was raised. And that is, how is it that we have a universe that's so finely tuned that it appears to have anticipated the existence of human beings, anthropic principle, who now can reflect on their universe and wonder why is it that the universe is just this way. Now, there are two standard retorts to that. One standard retort is the response or rejoinders, and that is the one you've raised. And that is, every possible universe is going to be equally unique or equally improbable. Yeah, thank you. Improbable. And we just happen to be in the universe where we exist to reflect on the improbability. And in response to that, a fairly well-known British philosopher raised an illustration. He said, what if you were a person in the firing line and there were 50 guns trained right at your heart, and they all went off and none hit you? You could say, well, it's a remarkable coincidence, and in fact, if that remarkable coincidence didn't happen by accident, I wouldn't be around now to reflect on the remarkable coincidence. Or you could say, you know what, something's fishy here. Probably people didn't aim for me, kind of thing. I don't know if I'm doing justice to the illustration, but you get the point. So someone's going to have to make, any individual looking at this evidence has got to make the judgment call. Does it appear is the best explanation for all these incredibly fine-tuned constants that this is an example of colossal luck, which is what Richard Dawkins says. And he says the same thing, by the way, with regards to the origin of life from non-life, that we have all of these colossal examples of luck, or is it more reasonable to infer design from that evidence? And it strikes me, not just me, but a whole lot of other people who had been naysayers, that it is more reasonable to infer design from that evidence than just to say it's an example of colossal luck. So you kind of have to, make your own choice on what you think is the most reasonable explanation.
All right, Greg. You're the best. Thanks for helping me out.
All right. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate the call. And Richard Swinburne is the one, I think, who came up with that illustration about the firing line. And, a lot of times, friends, you just have to make your call on this stuff. You're going to have to make your judgment call. And look, if there was only one evidence for the existence of God, and that evidence was the fine-tuned constants of the universe, well, the idea that we have where this is an example of a colossal example of luck is more appealing or more tenable, I think. But when you have a whole bunch of other things that converge, and this is just one of a number of arguments, I think that changes things considerably. Okay.